A group that identified itself as concerned Nigerian leaders has called for the establishment of a presidential task force on national security with extraordinary powers and a clear mandate to coordinate and execute emergency measures to halt the violence. The leaders called on the presidency, National Assembly, governors, traditional rulers, religious leaders, security chiefs, civil society, and every Nigerian of conscience to come together to forge a new path on how to tackle insecurity. The task force, the leaders said, should work directly with the National Security Advisor and all relevant security, intelligence, and humanitarian agencies. They noted that the nation was bleeding and therefore resolved to stand united by one conviction that rises above all differences, stressing that silence is complicity while inaction is betrayal. They lamented that in just 2 years, Nigeria has recorded at least 10,217 violent killings, according to Amnesty International. Joining us to discuss the group's stance on the creation of a presidential task force is Tonye, Rivers APC governorship candidate in the 2023 election. He would also discuss the worsening state of insecurity from Zamfara to Sokoto, Benue to Plateau State, with death tolls rising daily. Good morning, Mr. Cole. Good to see you.
Always good to
You're
see
welcome.
you. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Cool.
My bro.
Man with the strong prayers.
Mr. Tonye, welcome to this table. It's good to have you in person. There's outstanding business. Dr. Patrick Deleko was 85 the other day. I know there was a party in Abuja, which some of us could not attend. But we have you here now. His son. This is an opportunity for you to do the birthday again. Because Dr. Patrick Deleko is a man that should be celebrated for all seasons, a man for all seasons. And you are very privileged to be his son, considering his excellent credentials. But that's not why you are here. We'll come to that after this program. The issue is about national security. Now, a group called National Council of Leaders or National Concerned Leaders, they say that Nigeria needs a presidential task force on security. Now, they've not given us the details in terms of what they mean. Do they mean a National Guard, whatever? Because they say it will report to the National Security Advisor.
It will report to the president.
Or to the president. Well,
Correct.
The National Security Advisor is an appointee of the president.
Correct.
Do you think that that is a good idea? If it is not, what do you think is a better idea? Because security remains a major problem in this environment.
You know, you will recall that as one of the first things that President Buhari did when he came in was to relocate the military hierarchy to Maiduguri, saying that they should go and tackle it at the forefront. Now, there was a belief then that because he was a former military head of state, that he would understand how to tackle Boko Haram and the insurgency. But there's a lot more to this than just military action. And that's why we're calling for a presidential task force that does not only include the military, but also includes different aspects, kinetic, non-kinetic, economic. It's a major thing. So what are we saying? If we're talking about state of emergencies and issues that bother Nigeria, security is one issue that our government has to take front and center. We cannot play with security anymore. Nobody feels safe, and that's where the issue is.
Oh, so you are a member of the concerned Nigerian leaders?
Most definitely. Okay. I am. I'm very concerned.
All right. I would love to have asked who the other members of the Nigerian concerned leaders, because, I mean, there are a number of groups out there, and to see yourself as part of this group, it would be great to know who are the other people that make up this group. But beyond that is that the security and the government would argue and say that actually no, because they've been saying that security has greatly improved under this administration, that they've been able, in fact, last week we were talking about how some terrorists were apprehended, those who had been wanted for so long, I think the leader of the Ansaru group, and a few other things. They'll tell you that they've made strides in security. But you're saying the opposite is the case. What do they need to do in addition? Because this kinetic and non-kinetic, we've been talking about it for a long time.
Absolutely.
We've been speaking. So what are they doing? Or what difference would the PTF, Presidential Task Force do?
Okay.
Is it not just setting up another group, more money to be spent?
So one of the things that we must always do is that we have baselines. So what are the baseline numbers and where are we going from there? Amnesty International captures numbers. On our own end, we don't capture numbers. And so one of the things that any government ought to do is say that, you know what, 10 years ago, this was the number. 5 years later, this is the number. Now this is the number. And you can see that there's progress. And not just the numbers, you now back it with evidence that A, you're arrested, B, you persecuted, C, you returned people or you changed them from being insurgents to responsible citizens, and you follow it through. And I suspect that one of the biggest problems that we have in Nigeria is that the accountability backed by scientific evidence does not exist. So people talk about it. We say security has improved, but do people feel the improvement in security? Can people hold on to the data and say that this has changed? So we see Benue, we see Plateau, we saw what happened. This was out there on the news. Yeah. When we now take Benue State, has security improved in Benue? Are less people being killed now than 5 years ago? So those are the issues that we're talking about. And I think the last thing I would like to say about this is that we need to get to the place in Nigeria where lives matter. You know, we have gotten to this point where you talk about deaths, you can talk about 10,000 deaths, and everybody just says, it's another day in the office.
So how do we get this empirical data? What are the methods, the procedures, the funding? Because I know data is not cheap. Yes, the fund, because so is it a task force where people just sit down? And secondly, how do we fight the political angle? I was making it, and I will say it for the opportunity. Ayo will not like it. You know me, I will say my mind. Nobody can stop me. Like the CDS tried to defend it. Oga Musa is my very good friend, but I will say my mind. How can you have a task force that works for security in a country where Zamfara states, just common state election, 5 polling units, they brought, goodness me, trucks and trucks of military, police, NSNDC, and everybody there. It was a full detachment there for one small election, just because APC wanted to win PDP. But when it comes to critical matters, we're always seeing banditry and everything. Why can't that detachment go to stop people that are trying to kidnap people in Zamfara State? So Oga Musa and the military top personnel, which are my very good friends, which I support a lot, can say that's not the case and all of that. But that one happened truly. And it's a slap on the face of our security apparatchik. It doesn't mean that I will not come and praise them tomorrow when they do it. Oga Musa as my person is doing a good job. But that is an indictment on all of us.
What would you like me to say?
How can you get rid of politicking from, the military architecture? And the number one question I asked was on data. Who is going to pay for the data?
No, Nigeria has to pay for the data.
Where's the money?
No.
Is it going to be a line item in the budget?
It must be.
Where National Bureau of Statistics is to say they're already there?
You see.
So is this an independent data architecture?
Listen, please. There's no policy that you can make in this world that is going to stand and succeed if data is not backing it. None. There's nothing, whether it's on population, whether it's on health, whether it's on education. If you don't have a data as to what your base is, there's no way that you can measure success, which means that anything that you put that is not backed properly by data is a waste of time.
So how do we get this thing working?
Well, you just said it. We have a National Bureau of Statistics.
Can they do this? Can they add this to the data set?
Where does data come from in the first instance? First, you get data from having people on the ground. There are human beings that are in that place who are dying every day. You get information from citizens. Look, in my own village.
But you see, there's a difference. It's so easy to say data comes from MBS. Is it not in this country, you and I, Ogami, where when there was a data posted on MBS's website about millions of people being kidnapped, they deleted the data, they said there was hacking that went on. So all of a sudden, what is the integrity of the data set?
So now
why have they not been doing the data all this while?
So you just mentioned the right word. what is the integrity of the data set? Now, what backs data and integrity of data is when an independent body that is inside that says that this data and my data correlate. Amnesty is bringing out data every day. People believe, rightly or wrongly, that Amnesty data has integrity. Now, MBS at the other end, if they counter that, there needs to be proof. Why is this countered? Not just talking about it. So if we say 10,200 deaths in 2 years from Amnesty, MBS ought to come out and say, no, that's not correct. There are only 10 deaths.
But Ogami, you and I know there's no funding for all of this. See,
but now we're coming back to the same problem.
In the NGO ecosystem, most of these government authorities even depend on the data set from those international NGOs because you don't have the capacity to be on ground. Or if that's the case, look at this USAID that they withdrew. Do you know how much people are suffering because of the withdrawal of that USAID?
What should that tell you? That we have our priorities wrong.
We don't have the capacity.
No, we have the capacity. We don't have our priorities right.
Okay, Mr. Cole, we're talking about security. Now, we all agree on the fact, basically, that government needs to do more with regard to security.
We agree.
In the last few weeks, there's been a lot of congratulatory messages, the Nigerian security getting Ansaru, getting the leadership of Al-Qaeda affiliates in collaboration with Chad and all of that, which is fine. But we concluded that Nigeria needs to do more. Now, yesterday, even as we speak, there is this conference of African chiefs of defense staff all over Africa. They are all in Nigeria at this moment. President Tinubu spoke there yesterday, represented by Shetima. And he was talking about unity, about intelligence sharing, about having a framework that is African. I say, well, these countries have their different peculiarities, but we cannot attack the idea of cooperation.
It's an excellent idea.
To address terrorism. There was also some talk about AI, digital security, and all of that. What do you think about all of those issues? So, as a conference is still continuing.
Okay, so those are excellent points. And those are things that we have to drive. You see, the whole point of this is that security has to become front and center to one of the things that we must address in Nigeria. So they've been doing it. The cooperation around the ECOWAS sub-region, very, very important. Nobody will tell you that that is not important. What matters is that, one, what's your baseline? The things that you are putting out there, what results are they bringing? And how are you measuring it? Number three, what is the confidence that the people, you and I have, that these actions are now translating to things that we can feel? You can go to sleep, travel, go on the road, move around, decide that you have a friend in Benue. Let me go there today and go and spend a week there without worrying. Those are the things that we need to begin to address. And I believe that the way that the security apparatus is going about doing what they do is good. Nobody is saying that they are folding their hands and they are sleeping and they don't care. That's not what this is about. What we're saying, as you said, about doing more means that A, you have to communicate better. B, you have to have evidence that the things you are doing is actually working. And C, people must believe that their lives matter. And I think that's what the issue is. People don't believe that their lives matter.
Okay, Mr. Ko, sorry. I know Ayo will want to follow up, but I don't know how it goes around, but I want to ask you one question. There's this issue about KEPCO, about Sahara Energy that is in the news. You were, the founding mind behind that business. So what are your quick thoughts? I know you were discussing security, but you are here. You are here. By way of digression, I just want to know what you think.
No, absolutely nothing there. There's absolutely nothing. In business and boardroom politics, it's just as bad and as terrible as political boardroom was. So nothing there.
Okay.
Okay, two things before you go. Just since you were here and Dr. Mate has digressed us, let me digress further. I know you're part of the eminent personalities in Rivers State who had come out to speak against the local government elections happening on the 30th of August. Yes. I'd like you to speak about that very briefly because they are insisting that it will go ahead. And I also want you to talk about the courts and the fact that you still have a military administrator. His time is 6 months is almost over. But what's the feeling of especially the eminent leaders, eminent personalities in Rivers State, and finally his next steps for concern? Let me take you back to the conversation. Like, what would next steps look like? Because you talked about data, but what should be in the immediate or quick wins? But I'd like you to talk about the Rivers State.
So first about the local government elections and all of that, I personally feel that having that election in the time of a state of emergency under a
military administrator,
I think it just says everything wrong about democracy. If you have suspended all the democratic institutions, then let's know we're suspended for whatever reason. You cannot be having elections under that cover. So I don't think that is right. Even the perception of it is wrong. The question then is that Sim did an election which he seemed to rush. Let's just do it so that the idea was let's capture the local government. All of that was reversed. And then we're doing exactly the same now. So the question is, what are we trying to capture? And for who is this being captured? And I think so it just sends the wrong signal. And that's why I'm against it. I don't think it's right. If we want to do democracy, let's do democracy properly. But where there is this sense of impunity where you can do anything anyhow and nobody can talk, I don't think that's right. And I think Rivers State is setting a very dangerous precedent for democracy. So I personally will not stand for that.
All right. All right. Thank you.
On that note, we'd like to thank you very much, Mr. Tonye Cole, and don't forget the implications that we started with.
Of the birthday.
Thank you for joining us.